Now to black fatigue. It has recently been turned into a feeling that some white and black people have who say they are damn tired of foolishness of some black people. The claims of racism from sunup to sundown, loud talking, fighting, and the list goes on. Not my list now, keep that in mind. But some people are tired of the complaints and don't give a damn.
That reminds me of the Jamie Foxx show when he played the reporter on there. If you all ever watched that show, what he just said at the end reminded me of that and brought that back to thought here. But let's go ahead and get back into it, and we're going to come back with our commentary here shortly.
Here's what one TikTok user had to say about it.
Not racist, and I know y'all have been told this is racist, but it's not. It's not racist to call black people out for their behavior and what they're doing to society at this moment. I'm glad people are noticing this because it's been so many years and it's finally catching up to y'all. I've been trying to tell y'all that white people are tired of y'all. I'm tired of y'all too, but everybody, the world is getting sick of y'all and y'all's. I'm so glad this day is here. I've been trying to get out there that you people need help. It's me, but me and other black conservatives. We've been trying to warn society that this is what it's going to come to when y'all keep.
I always hear the you people all the time in different videos like this. Not in person, but on the videos. We got to talk about that.
Coddling black people.
All righty, are her feelings valid? Joining us to talk about it, Dr. Angela Jones, political analyst, Angela Box, activist, Eugene Howard, filmmaker Sean Welling, and conservative M. Williams. We want to.
So this is the panel that they had up on the Fox 26 Houston. So definitely thank them for the commentary here. But I want to definitely drop into this topic. Black fatigue, the weight we carry, and healing what we deserve. Now, the perspective that I'm evaluating this is what I would consider more of an educational perspective, and definitely the opportunity for people to actually see what it actually means and the details about it to get a better thought process behind it and everything. And these kind of topics are really interesting because sometimes things can be taken out of context, and if we don't know truly what it was meant for and what the definition is and what the origin, you become lost. But for the definition of black fatigue that was defined by the person Mary Frances Winters, who coined the term, black fatigue is the long-term physical and emotional exhaustion caused by the constant stress of racism, discrimination, and systematic inequality, specifically in the black community. Now, as I said, this term was definitely coined and explored by Mary Frances Winters in her book that she wrote. And I've never seen the book before, but after looking around and trying to figure out what exactly this is and what it meant, I was able to then see, okay, this is the person that brought the term up. And in the book, it was called Black Fatigue, How Racism Erodes the Mind, Body, and Spirit. So it was more focused specifically on the culture and then how to look inward to basically help you get through the process. And the key concepts that she talked about in this when looking at the highlight of the book was talking about generational trauma, which we've heard that before, the viscerous racial trauma that goes on around you, and the microaggressions and the daily battles that you may encounter going on about your day through life. As we all know, in this world, we experience things through different sets of eyes. We experience it in different ways. We have different feelings and thoughts around these type of things when they come up, because it tends to kind of tense people up and people are afraid to actually talk about them. But it's okay for you to actually talk about it, because talking is not hurting anyone. You're not putting your hands on anyone or anything like that, but you're basically are able to sit and have an adult conversation with people around you, whether that's family, friends, and any people who may not necessarily look like you or share the same cultural values as you. You should still then be able to have the conversations. But the quote that was most definitely in there, not specifically in the video, But talking about black fatigue is extreme exhaustion from dealing with racism in all of its forms because it wears you down generation after generation. Now, of course, when you start talking about the mind, body, and soul, specifically the mind, you have to talk about the psychology behind fatigue. And the psychology behind the fatigue that was discussed is the racial battles, basically a term that's normally used in academia, particularly around black students in predominantly white institutions. And what was being discussed was having trouble sleeping because of something somebody have gone through. They're not able to get a good night's rest, and anxiety and hypervigilance as well. Now, you also have emotional numbness and irritability, meaning if something is said, you've heard it for so long that it doesn't necessarily bother you, but you know that it's there. What can you actually do about it? Then you also have the physical exhaustion without the obvious cause. Now, when you're looking at the psychology, mind, body, and how this all evolved, when you look at the historical context, you have to understand that at some point when you talk about these topics, you have to bring in slavery, you have to bring in Jim Crow, segregation, redlining, mass incarceration. You do have to bring those particular types of topics into the conversation because it helps you be able to explain how fatigue isn't new. It's just inherited from one point to the other. Now, as people discuss intergenerational stress, like things that happen within the black community specifically itself, it talks about how black families have passed down survival mechanisms, but also stress responses. So let me say that again so that we all understand this here. The intergenerational stress and how black families have passed down survival mechanisms. If you've ever, sure, most of you have seen movies about slavery, or you've heard your great grandparents talk about family members in your family going through slavery, what you will begin to realize is that as they were talking to you and showing you things and people learn growing up, being around their family, they learn how to survive. It's survival mechanisms that will kick in to help you move about through life. But those are also stress responses as well, because when you see something happen, you were shown what to do in those particular situations. And so you have to go back. We can't just focus on 2025 at the time of this video. We have to also look back through our family history, because our family histories are going to be different. So what you're going to hear non-black, which that just means any other nationality or ethnicity other than black. Okay. That is what that means as we're going through this information. So you have black, then you have non-black, and non-black, of course, will be any other racial category behind that, whether it be white, Asian, Middle Eastern, Indian, like all in anywhere across this globe. That's what I'm talking about when I'm saying non-black, because this is definitely a global issue that we have here, and we need to also be able to loop that into the conversation. Now, when you look outside from the historical context and you work your way up to the modern day manifestations, would be whatever that you are experiencing right now as of today. When you go into the workplace, I'm sure you've heard the terms tokenism. You've heard of codes of switching, sometimes being tokenism being the only black one, or the DEI or burnout is what you will also see. But when you look at tokenism, you're basically saying that the only black person in that specific environment. But here's the most interesting part. There's been many places I've been where I've seen either being the only black person in the room or seeing someone else as well who looks like me that is in the same room, and you begin to wonder, okay, do other people not know that this is here, or have other people not thought to even attend this specific event. There's different reasonings behind that, and reasons are going to be different, which we have to also be able to evaluate those as well. Now, being the only one is definitely not a bad thought. Think about it this way. If you are at a all black event and someone non-black comes in, has anyone ever thought to ask, do they feel like they are the only one, or are they there enjoying the moment and being in that time? See, we have to be able to ask questions and be able to think about things in different ways and not just resort to one base argument every single time. Now, specifically in healthcare, many of you have heard of the of the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. We've all heard of that. Not only haven't never heard of it in school, going through school, but basically just reading books and wanting to know more about history, you hear about these things. And in healthcare, according to the modern day manifestations of what people are seeing, dismissal of pain. When you're saying that something is hurting, people may not actually believe you. You also have maternal mortality. You also have the lack of mental health access. And I can tell you this, many times in the black community, going to therapy, if you tell somebody you're going to therapy, sometimes they will look at you like you've lost your mind. But therapy is supposed to help any human being that is going through something, regardless of what your ethnicity is or what culture that you are from. If you need the mental help, it's nothing wrong with going to see a therapist to get help. Everybody needs help at some point in their life. I would much rather a person go and seek help in therapy and not let what's bothering them hurt other people. Excuse me. Now, in society, what we see from what we have on these here, you will see police violence. You've also heard of people being policed for simply existing. And some examples of those, which we were seeing a lot of during COVID online, where you saw a rise in what they would call the barbecue Becky's. And what that was basically meaning is the person who was non-black basically going over into someone's personal space, whether they was minding their business or barbecuing or fishing or whatever, and they will call the police on them. And what we would see is the video of the person and them interacting, but we never hear the stories of what happened actually before the camera started to roll on the phone. Then you got your traffic stops. And the thing is, in my honest thought, this has been going on for a very, very long time. The difference in why it seems so new is because before it was just you and a person talking, you solved your problems locally right there, and you both moved on. Now that we have these devices right here, we have these phones in our hand. And these phones in our hand, what that does is that allows you to record and go live at any point in time. So people are beginning to see it, and it's now in your face in the algorithm on YouTube. You're picking all of that up, and you're basically having your life react to what somebody is experiencing. Online social media, the social media trauma loops over and over, and what you see, because everybody sees something different in the algorithm, but what you would see in the media trauma loops is videos of Black death or injustices go viral, but you don't see videos of things that Black people are doing that are positive in society. If you don't look at that, the thing is, if you don't look at those type of videos, you're not going to get them specifically in your feed. What you would need to do is sometimes you have to dismiss yourself from looking at certain things, because it creates a reaction within you, and you shouldn't want to go out there trying to hurt someone reacting to something that you don't need to actually see that doesn't have any big business with you. And overall, when you're looking at it online through social media with the media loops, as I keep saying over and over, there are other types of people out there that are getting hurt, that are getting stopped, traffic stops by the police, but those videos are not on rotation. They're not shown as often. And so you have to be careful of what you consume because it will then become a part of you. But when you look at this article, and you can look at the Atlanta Voice from when I was looking around, you were hearing community leaders speak on the daily exhaustions of things that people were experiencing. You also was looking at the acknowledgement that Black fatigue is rarely validated, even though it came out in 2020. You have to also understand that this has been for years. You can even look at some of your old shows that will show you different things. For example, the first one that comes to mind to me is In the Heat of the Night. Remember when Virgil Tibbs first got to Sparta, Mississippi? And then you saw how the characters in the a movie or the sitcom were reacting to him, like Bubba Skinner, William W.O. Bill Gillespie. Then as the series went on, you saw they became more closer, they became more friendly. And what they were showing at that time is things that were going on in society. This has been going on even before In the Heat of the Night, but that's just an example to show you. Now, the reinforcement that this needs to definitely be reinforcement that rest is essential. It's okay to rest. It's okay because the rest is not optional. It is absolutely necessary. And just with different people that I have seen and spoke with and experienced is sometimes you will feel unseen when you go into spaces. What I used to think is when going out into society, say if I go into a city that's predominantly white, I go into a gas station to get gas or something, and nobody speaks. They used to be very upsetting because you're like, man, people are not friendly anymore. Now in society, what I do is when I walk into a space, I speak to people regardless of what they look like. Now, what I pay attention to is how they react when I speak. If they act like they do not want to speak, I totally would dismiss them and I'll move on and start talking to somebody else. If any kind-hearted person is going to have a conversation with you, they're going to speak. But it's okay for Black people to be in non-Black spaces and they may feel and think people don't care about them. And that's perfectly fine. Some people actually don't. But that's going to go different ways because you have Black people as well who specifically don't like non-Black people at all. This don't like people thing, it goes from all different ethnicities, all different nationalities around the block have groups of people within their specific culture and ethnicity that don't like people that do not look like them. That is global. But the biggest problem that we have in America is the conversation always circles back to and starts with Black and white. But the being expected to just deal with it, those days are over with. But you have to realize the toll that it takes on your health and your spirit, because while everyone else out here around you is enjoying life and they're moving on and they may not even be thinking about it, you have to also do the same. You have to also do the same. And so why it's hard to name the exhaustion is many people don't realize that they're even fatigued at all. They think they're just tired, which they most definitely could be. But the fact that there's a term around it, what I think is what's turning people around is the word Black being in there. It's definitely taking the narrative and making its change on social media, because the cultural expectations is that you have to work twice as hard to get half as far. And see, sometimes these things like this, that specific wording there, you have to work twice as hard to get half as far. Think about an adult who would say that to a growing black child. Are you just destroying that child's possibilities when they getting older? If you work, you're going to make it from point A to point B. What you put into what you're doing in your craft is what you get out of it. But the fear of being labeled angry, lazy, or complaining should not and will not keep you from going beyond the stars. Never feel that way at all. Now, when I look at it and I ask, how can the healing process begin with this? Because remember, this is an educational opportunity. For my black listeners that are out there, name it. Know what you are feeling that is valid and real. Seeking therapy is okay. Seeking therapy, especially black therapists who understand cultural dynamics. And here is the point that we have to see, because I want you all to open up your eyes. When you go to a doctor's office, no matter where you are, if you're in China, you're probably going to have a doctor that looks exactly a lot like you. But if you're in America specifically, you have a doctors who don't look like you or who look like you. For example, if you have a white person going to a doctor in the city or in the state of Mississippi, you're in a small town, your doctor looks like you. They're non-black, they're white. It's nothing wrong with that. What we have is the world consistently putting pressure on people, telling them that they're racist because they only want to be around their group of people. That is fine. That is fine. I don't see anything wrong with that, because when you go to Italy, Italians are gonna want to hang around Italians. That's what they grew up with. That's what they see. If you go to Germany, are gonna be with Germans. They're gonna hang out with Germans. They're gonna party with Germans. I've seen that. I've traveled all across this world, and what I see is the culture of people in that country are going to have a special relationship with the people that look exactly like them. It is nothing wrong with that at all. But when you turn the cameras around and you specifically see black people hanging around black people, it's nothing wrong with that at all. It's nothing wrong with a black person seeing a black doctor, because there are certain nuances, there are certain cultural dynamics that they're going to be able to say, and they're going to be able to talk to their black patients in a specific way because they understand what it is like. It is nothing wrong with that at all. And that right there, when people twist that right there is what is keeping racism alive. But it's nothing wrong with going somewhere that's predominantly black, whether you go to a school, Morehouse, Spelman, Tuskegee. It's nothing wrong with going to schools of people that look like you. Nothing wrong with that at all. You can also flip and say, okay, you have predominantly white institutions around the country. You have Harvard, Stanford, you have all these different schools. And I've always wondered, do non-black people think the same way that black people think in terms of who they choose to be around? There's something I'm going to have to find out there, because education is most definitely important. But you have to prioritize joy, happiness, because it's not just survival. It is most definitely thriving in where you want to go, in the direction that you want to go in life. You're not forgetting about your past, but you're moving forward in life because you have a goal that you want to leave a legacy for your children or family down the line. Now, for my non-black listeners, that are out there. Definitely educate yourself, self-educate yourself. Talk to your friends who don't look like you and understand that when you read and listen and learn without expecting emotional labor to take a toll on people. Now, in terms of believing specifically black people, is that when they say that something is exhausting or something's bothering them or something is racist, they're experiencing something that you may not be able to understand. When they're saying it, it is whatever it is. When they're telling you that something is bothering them, definitely take the time to understand and talk with them, because what happens is this stuff gets online, it gets misconstrued. People say things and it gets taken like to a whole nother different level, because we all gonna have to exist. We're all gonna have to exist. And here's the thing, we're all going to have a privilege in the community that we are in. But if you use the privilege that you have, you may be able to advocate, vote, hire fairly, and challenge racism when it comes up, even when it's an inconvenience. Because the thing is, if I had any of my non-black friends around me and someone said something to them that was disrespectful, I'm going to make sure to work with them and take up for them when I know that something is wrong. That is just being a human being, because no matter where you go on this planet, you have the ability and the right to most definitely be respected. We are going to have to work together, people. But if you need to take a look at that book, once again, it's called Black Fatigue by Mary Frances Winters. And what I want to leave y'all with this thought is that we've learned to carry the weight for so long, we've carried it so well, that people forget that it is extremely heavy. But it's okay to put it down. It's okay to rest. So, like, listen, and subscribe to the channel, Lifestyle by SK, where wine, cigars, and relationships create that tapestry of extraordinary experience. You all have a good one.